Well, hey everybody, welcome into this Adobe Illustrator tutorial. My name is Nathaniel Dodson, and today we're going to take a look at how to create a badge in Adobe Illustrator. It's a lot of sort of round design stuff, but we're going to have a lot of fun with it. It's all pretty basic level stuff, but I think you'll still learn a lot, and certainly you'll have a bunch of fun. Let's jump in and check it out right now. Okay, here we are in Adobe Illustrator. We're going to kick things off by going File, New, creating a new file. And we're going to make that document 2560 by 1440, create that. And I am going to grab a quick rectangle here. I'm going to kind of speed through this and just create a background. And I want the color of that background to be, I forget now, what do I want it to be? I want it to be like 2D 414A. So it's going to be like a dark, flat, bluish color. There we have it, something like that. I'll pop open my align panel and just align it center this way, center that way. And I'll name the layer BG, lock it up so we just have our background, and create a new layer. All right, so this new layer is going to be our badge layer. If you like, to make it easier for this tutorial, I know I'm flowing off screen there for a second. I'm just going to blow up the size of the thumbnails a little bit so we can see what's going on. Okay, here we're going to grab our ellipse tool and click a single time. We're going to create a 350 pixel by 350 pixel ellipse, which it looks like we've done nothing because the fill of the ellipse, well, it's the same as our background. So let's swap fill with stroke and then double click on stroke. And here in the color picker, we're going to set our stroke to the color of, let's go with like a beige color. So let's go E3, C8, and then 9A. That's going to be a nice light beigey color. That's the color of our stroke. You see it. And then here at my properties panel under stroke, I'm just going to bump this guy up to 10 points. So now we can really see it. And before we go any further, I will just use my align panel, align this to the center of our document. Okay, cool. So this is the base of our badge. You're just going to begin with the circle, and you can really go any way you want. You can add ridges, you can add dots, you can add lines, you can add anything. So what I'm thinking is we'll add a few lines, a ring of stars, and maybe like a star bursting effect as I did here in this version. Basically, we're going to recreate this badge. So here's what we're going to do. Select our first path, and to quickly create another circle, we're just going to offset the path. Object, path, offset path, and we're going to offset this bad boy. Well, we've got a 10 pixel stroke, so let's try offsetting it like 25 pixels. Preview it. Boom. There we go. We bumped that right out. Hit OK. We've created a second path. Looking beautiful. Now, I do want to create another path, but before I do, let's create the first star so we can kind of get the space between this path and the next path correct, right? So we're going to be creating that second line, but in order to see how far we have to push it out, let's create our first star. So we're going to do that, of course, using the star tool. I'm going to click a single time. I kind of know the size star I want, and it is right here. Radius 1, 15 pixels, radius 2, 6 pixels, and a good old 5-point star. That's going to give me this very military-esque looking star, which I'm real quick going to swap the fill, or I'm sorry, swap the stroke back to the fill. And you can see here, we just have this nice little, very military looking star, which is cool. And then because here under view, I have smart guides checked on, you can see here as I'm moving this around, it's going to automatically align itself to the middle of our circles, which is exactly what I want. That's great. So I just have my positioning there. I can see where my next line is supposed to go. So now I'm going to take that outermost stroke, go object, go path, go offset path. I almost said outline stroke. We don't want that. Turn preview on, and we can see we're not quite right. So just use your arrow key and bump it up, bump it up, bump it up until it looks about right. So maybe, I don't know, 52. A little bit more space on the top might look cool. So I'm going to go 52 pixels there and hit OK. And we've got that line. That's looking good. Now, how do we get the stars to wrap all the way around this? There are actually a few different ways we can do this. I think just creating a simple pattern brush will be the way to go. I think it'll be fairly simple and easy for us to do. So let's go Window and open up our Brushes panel here. And drag brushes up here. Then all we need to do is take our star and drag it and drop it in the brushes panel. Illustrator's going to say, hey, look, new brush. Yeah, new brush. Pattern brush, that's what we want. We're going to hit OK. And then we've got this kind of convoluted, complicated looking dialog. We're going to keep it simple, though. We're going to set the spacing to 40% of the width of the stars and nothing else. We could say add space to fit, but I think stretch to fit is going to work just fine for us here. And we'll hit OK. You can see there, we've got our little pattern. I don't really care about the corner star, which is looking kind of janky, because we know we're just going to slap this around in a circle. I'm going to move my star just sort of randomly out here. I don't want to delete it, because I think we'll use it as a design element later, and it is the perfect size right now. So I'm just going to, kind of set it off there out in the yonder. All right, let's zoom in here. And we need to create the path on which the stars will run. So let's just take our outermost path and we're going to go object path, offset path. We're going to use offset path trick again. But we can actually use negative numbers and push the path back inward. So let's go like negative 20. That's not quite centered up. Let's try 20, maybe 28, something like that looks good. It's just, it's just off center, but I think that's going to work well with the star. So just off center, giving a little bit more space to the top is good. Hit OK. And now all we have to do is click on this brush to apply that as our stroke. And you can see we just have a nice ring of stars. They're all spaced out and just looking right. Maybe it's not quite right. You can see maybe it could be a little bit bigger. So I'm going to hold down Alt or Option and just scale it up a tiny bit, try to recenter the stars there a little bit better. So yeah, always room for a little adjustment. No shame in that. All right, so we've got the base here. Now let us go ahead and create the Starburst Effect. So this is going to be kind of interesting here how we create this, but hang with me. I think you'll really enjoy this. Let's go with Line Segment tool and click a single time and say, yeah, like 700 pixels is great. Remember our initial circle is 350, so 700 should way overshoot that. That should be pretty good. An angle of 90 degrees, so it's straight up and down, wonderful. And we don't want to fill the line. We just want a nice little stroke. In fact, it has no stroke on it. We're going to select that beige color to give it a stroke. And there's our line. Now, our line has an anchor point on both ends and also this point here in the middle, or at least this, really not a point, but rather a center identifier. And we're going to use that here because we're going to grab our variable width tool, the stroke width tool. We're going to find that center and somewhere around here, I think. Oh, there it is right there. Okay, so just kind of remembering that. The smart guides will allow me to snap to that. And I'm just going to stretch that until the center is kind of wide, right? That's all we want to do. And it just doesn't even have to be perfectly centered. Just very, very close to that point is great. We want to do that first. And then once we do that long, arduous process, I made it way more difficult than it had to be. We're going to grab both the ends and just pinch them in. So they're just these really tight cinched ends. Let me zoom out here to make the scrolling to the bottom go a little faster, and then zoom way back in. And I am going to grab my width tool again and just grab that and pinch it in. And then at this point, we're going to go back to the very middle of our line right there, right where we put the kind of widening piece. And the reason I did this was because if we just pinch both the ends, the whole line will just go to 0 and it will disappear again. It won't look good. By establishing the middle point, you can see here it says, look, we're a width of 7.1 pixels down there. We're going to now scroll this back into about, 1.5 to 2. Maybe I'll go right around 2 for the size of my line. And you can see we've got this nice javelin type shape now where the center is thick and it just fades out nicely to the edges. All right, let's move this over, and we could use our alignment tools, but I bet you, well, yeah, we'll probably still use the alignment tools. Let's select all these shapes here on the bottom. So you can see I've selected everything here. Ignore the star for a second. I've selected everything except the line. The line is not selected, just this stuff here. We'll go Object Group to group it up. And now we'll also select the line by holding down Shift and clicking on that little dot. And then out here in the art area, click on the path for one of the rings. And what it's going to do is, you can see it's adding this like thick red selection line over everything. What we've just done is set that as our key object. So now in our alignment panel, we can align to a key object, which is not letting me do. Let's just select everything and do it the right way. There we go. Now you can see align to key object. And we're going to say, look, align the horizontal and vertical centers, just to get us in there nicely. And once we've done that, we can select our path. And we want to begin spreading this around the edges, but we got to do this kind of in 3 passes because we have kind of the long spikes, the medium long spikes, and the shorter spikes. So we're going to do the long spikes first. So we'll go up here to Effect and choose Transform. By the way, you probably don't have Transform there. It's under Distort and Transform, Transform. And here in the Transform Effect dialog box, what we're going to do is, we know we want 4 copies of this in total. So we're going to say 3 copies because we already have 1. Turn on preview. We don't see any difference. So we just want to rotate it. And the angle is going to be 360 degrees divided by 4. I'm sorry, it's not going to be divided by 4. It's going to be divided by 8. So 360 divided by 8, which is going to be, of course, 45, which I could have just typed in, but I wanted to kind of show off the little math in the input. I'm going to hit OK. And there is our first bit of lines, right? So we got a nice looking little maybe ship navigation wheel type look. We're going to duplicate this now by going Edit, Copy, and then Edit, Paste, and front. Actually, I'm going to choose edit paste in back. And no, I should have done edit paste in front. I'm going to take the copy in front here. It really doesn't matter, I guess. And I'm going to change the color of it just so we can see what's going on here. I'm going to make it maybe like a yellow, right? We can really see it now. Select those lines, right? So I got the yellow lines selected. We're going to go Object Transform Scale. And now this is kind of interesting. I don't really want to belabor this point, but we're going to go non-uniform and we're going to scale 90% vertically. The reason we're doing that is because technically the effect of transform is not the original artwork. The only original artwork is that vertical line going straight up and down. So if we uniformly scaled this to 90% or whatever, it would have made our lines thinner as well as shorter. We want the thickness to be there. We just want the lines to not stick out quite as far. And sure enough, you can see like the yellow line goes out to there and stops. It's exactly what we want. So non-uniform scale and just the vertical of 90% because technically we're only scaling the one vertical up and down path. Hit OK. Great. And now we're going to go Window and open up our Appearance panel. And here in the Appearance panel, we can see the effects that have been applied to a particular piece of selected artwork. Right now we have our yellow line selected and there's the transform. Well, the cool thing is, look at that, click to edit the effect. But before I do that, I want to come in here to my Layers panel and I want to drag it below. Now that we've seen the sizing change, I want to kind of hide it, right? So it's hiding behind our tan lines. I'm going to go back to Transform now. And here what we want to do is we want to begin placing probably 3 or 4 lines in between each of these longer lines. So I am going to say, let's go 19 copies. We probably want 20 of these guys in total. Doesn't look like we made a difference yet. We're going to see the difference here with rotation. And by the way, we're doing 19 copies because it's 19 copies plus the one we've created. That's 20 copies. But each line is creating 2 pieces of spike, right? The spike on the one end and the spike on the other. So this is where I got my math wrong before. So we want to say 360 for this angle divided by 40 total lines because 20 copies, but each copy is going to be one line. So it's 19 copies plus the original. That's 40. So 360 divided by 40 is 9 degrees. If I turn this on preview, you can see now we have our 4 little spikes in between each long spike. We're going to go ahead and hit OK. And we've got the second part of our sunburst built out. Now what we want to do is place 2 even shorter spikes in between each of these little bursting effects. So let's go ahead and grab these lines and duplicate them. We can actually grab the original ones again if we want. Let's go with the new ones. And let's go Edit to Copy. And we're going to choose Edit to Paste in Front. We'll pull these all the way up in front, though, just so we can see them. And once more, we'll change the color. Maybe we'll go with like, let's go with maybe pink here. All right, make it something really easy to see. And you can see here, we've got our pink lines. They're covered in the yellow, but they're only halfway going up the tans. So we're going to select the pink set of lines, and we want to scale this down as well. Object Transform Scale. Again, non-uniform vertical 90%. You got it. I got it. We all got it. And then we're going to drag this all the way to the bottom. I just like to drag it to the bottom just because now when it reveals itself, we can very clearly see that we have all of our spacing and sizing and everything correct. Let's go to Transform. And here I'll keep it short and sweet for you so you're not totally confused. We're going 59 copies for a total of 60 lines. Let's turn on Preview. And we are now going to divide this. We're going to go 360. What would that be? Divided by 120. Which gives us 3 degrees. And you can see here, if I hit OK, you can see we now have 2 little pink lines in between each of our other lines. Now, this is looking pretty circus carnival-ish, not necessarily the sort of nice, strong, monochromatic vibe that I wanted. So I'm going to hold down Shift and select all these lines. And then I'm going to grab my eyedropper tool. And I'm going to just kind of try to select the top of this path here, which still has that original beige. And when I do that, all of our lines are going to get that same beige. Great. We can select all these lines and we can group them together. Object, Group. Now all of our starburst is on the same, within the same group. And what that also means is we can mask it here for our badge. How are we going to mask it? Well, we're going to go down here to this group and we're going to look for the widest circle. So there's the widest circle right there. So we're going to select this and we're going to go Edit Copy. And we're going to crunch that. And then we're going to select the group for our starburst. Just click right on the group. And we're going to open up our transparency panel. Now, you can do this here in the properties panel as well. I find that the masking in the properties panel is a little wonky, at least for me. I'm going to double click here on this thumbnail. It's going to add a mask. But I'm going to say, look, unclip the mask. And now I'm going to go Edit, Paste in Front, which is going to paste in that little circle I just made. I'm going to swap the stroke back to the fill. And then here with the fill, Up in the color panel, I can just hit this black color swatch, fill it with black, and it's going to hide the entire center. Let me go back to my transparency panel real quick, select the Starburst artwork to get back to my normal editing mode, and we have just knocked out the middle of the Starburst, just leaving those nice edges for us. All right, let's create a quick ribbon to drop over this, and maybe we'll add a grunge effect, and then we'll be out of here. So here's how we create the ribbon. Let's try to get through this quick. Let's grab the rectangle tool. We'll click a single time. I am going to make a 600 by 135 pixel rectangle, hit OK, and I'm going to swap the stroke over to the fill because this is the fill that I want. Now here's what I'm looking for. I basically want to align the top of my little ribbon with maybe like this spike here. So it's not going to be perfectly aligned vertically because we're going to create a second part of the ribbon that drops down and shoots outward. So we're going to sort of intentionally offset this. Now, one thing we can do is we can select this and select maybe something in the background and then make the thing in the background the key object and align to that. Let me just move the group with the stars up above everything. That'll make it a little easier to select. Bing, and then select that group. We're going to go align, and we're going to say, look, align, just the horizontal alignment. The vertical alignment, we know it's off. We like that. But I'm going to duplicate this rectangle by going Edit, Copy, and I'm going to actually paste this in back because this is going to be the little ribbon tails that shoot out to either side. I'm going to open my Properties panel. I'm going to unlink Maintain Proportions, right? You see that? Unlink that. We're going to set the width here to 740 pixels. It pops it outward. And then in order to see this, we're just going to change the color. We're going to make it like a yellow, right? Yeah, yellow's fine. Let's go with yellow. And this is how we're going to make the little ribbony ends that stick out from each side of our ribbon. All right, let's select the shape. And again, this is where it's really helpful to have smart guides turned on, view smart guides. We're going to zoom in here. And what I want to do is just use my pen tool. When I hover over the edge and I get to the exact middle, it's going to say, look, you're intersecting with the path and you're aligned with the middle of the shape. Do you want to add an anchor point? Click once. Absolutely, yes, I do. And then you can just hold down your arrow keys, hold down Shift and tap the left arrow key maybe 3 times. Let's nudge that inward about 30 pixels. And I'm going to do the same over here. I'm going to nudge it to the right, just nudging inward 30. And there we have it. There are the edges of our ribbon. Now, we want to use this piece of the rectangle to kind of punch a hole in the yellow part of our path. So it's going to kind of waste this rectangle. So we want to duplicate it, Edit, Copy, and then Edit, Paste in front. And we'll shut this copy of it off. And then we're just going to select the yellow ends of the ribbon and the center rectangle piece. We're going to go to our Pathfinder panel. And we're just going to choose this guy right here, minus front. Bing. And we just have the edges. We can turn on the piece of the rectangle we shut off, and we're golden. Now let's grab this other piece of the group, the 2 edges, and we're going to nudge it downward, hold down Shift and tap the down arrow key, maybe twice. Doesn't have to be anything crazy, but you can see how by offsetting our path, now it looks a little bit more centered, kind of like it's popping up and just looking more proper. But I want to add to this 3D effect even more, so I'm going to zoom in here, and on the bottom of both pieces of my outer ribbon, I'm going to grab the pen tool again, and I'm going to drop a path. Right? I can't quite intersect here because what it's going to do is just create a new path starting exactly on that point. So I'm just going to hover over the path down here and I'm going to concede that edge. And then what I can do is use my white arrow, my direct selection tool, and drag it upward, and smart guides will snap it right to that edge. That's going to sort of be the hinge because now we're going to grab the bottom inner corner and just nudge it inward, holding down Shift, tap the left arrow key. Yeah, probably twice. That looks decent there. Let's go to the other side and do the same thing. So we just add that little point. Whoop, we need to make sure we select the shape first, and then we're going to add our point, use the direct selection arrow, and if we just drag it upward, you'll feel it snap right to where it should be. Select the bottom inner anchor point, and then just Shift, and there I'm nudging right twice. So now you can see we've added even more of this depthy looking effect. I can select those outer pieces, grab my eyedropper tool, and sample the color of the ribbon, and now the ribbon looks a bit more cohesive with our badge as well. All right, let's select both these shapes, group them together. So there we go, got them selected. I just Shift-click them, Object, Group, and then we're going to duplicate this, Command or Control-C, and then to paste in place, Command or Control-F. And what I'll do here is swap the fill and the stroke. So there we have it. Doesn't look like anything really happened. Let's make the stroke something really obvious like a pink. I'm going to go to my properties and we're going to bump this up to the same width as the circles in our badge, which is 10 points. I'm going to click on the word stroke here and I'm going to choose to give these rounded corners. I just think it kind of rounds it off nicely, no pun intended. Now the pink is not going to work 100% for us. You could do a couple things here. We could do something as simple as just select your pink color and make this the same as the background color. So I could select this and my background color, if I remember the hex code was something like, what was it, 2D 414A probably. Something like that. The issue with doing this, while it looks cool, the issue with this is the moment that you change the background color, like if we select this and we say, hey, we actually want this to be a little bit, have just a tiny bit more green in it, you can obviously see the whole border shows through. So that's not really the greatest. What I would suggest you do is select that group and just make the stroke that deep, rich black by hitting that black stroke. There we go. And then cut this. Go Edit, Cut. And what we'll do is use this as a group. So we have the badge, well, not yet, but we're going to select the badge and the ribbon, just like that, all the pieces, and group them together, Object Group. And now what we do is apply a mask to this group. Again, go back to your transparency panel, double click to add a layer mask, unclip it, and then just go Edit, Paste in front, and it's going to paste that black mask, knocking out those pieces of the badge artwork and the ribbon. And now no matter what color we change the background, whether we make it that same blue that we just had, or we keep this green, it's going to still look pretty great. And look at that. I think I landed on the same exact hex code, 2D414A. Okay. Now that we've gotten to here, let's just zoom out a touch. Maybe what we can do at this point, let's lock up the background so we don't do anything funky there. You can drag a star in as a little piece of artwork, maybe duplicate it. I probably need to zoom in a little bit or get rid of those bounding box handles. Whoops, I just did exactly what I didn't want to do. I'm going to bring the star up above the group, and maybe we make this star just a little bit bigger down here or something. I don't know, it's maybe a little ridiculous, but you get the point, right? Make a couple little stars like this, something like so. It's not aligned perfectly, but close enough. And you can use your text tool, and we can add some text. We're going to make this say, in all caps, gritty badge. And I'm going to make this text a bit larger. Let's go into our properties panel here. I want Bebas for my font. So we'll just type that right into there. And I think we'll go with bold. I think that works for us. And this, I think it should probably be the same color as the background. So I can grab my eyedropper tool, sample the background, voila, there we go. Of course, this would change if we do change the background color. We would need to change it, I'm saying. I'm going to make the size about 120 points. Let's really bump it up. And then I'm just going to manually align it in here just to my eye, what I think looks decent. Bump it down a couple touches, something like that. Okay, good enough for now. Maybe I'll nudge it down one because I can never settle with what I do the first time. I always have to mess and fuss. And then the last thing is going to be adding a bit of like a vector texture to this, a grungy texture to this. So how will we do that? Well, relatively simple, but all the same, it requires a couple little steps. But it's basically creating a mask, and if you have the resources like the gritty texture, you'll be all good. Now, you can download the gritty texture here at this website called Vecteezy. It is free. I'll have a link for it down in the description to this video. And when you open up the AI file, which is what I have here, you can just select the bottom layer, which is all these black speckly bits, and copy them, and bring it over to our file, which is this here. And maybe what I'll do, I'm going to quickly group the stars into our groups. I'll just drag them right into the group. Let me grab all of them. There we have it. And then with this group, I'm going to open up the transparency panel. Remember, we already created a mask, but don't worry, no problem. We can just go into the mask and paste our artwork in here. It's filled with black already. And then I can move this around, maybe zoom out. I think I want to make it a bit bigger. So something like that. And we have all this extra artwork around here. So I'm going to use my direct selection tool, and I'm just going to drag big swaths over all this stuff and just delete some of the extra junk that I know I don't need. And I'm just deleting once all those bits of path have been selected. Just get rid of them. We don't need them. And we could also go in and maybe like on the badge, we're looking at it and saying there's just too much gritty stuff. So we could just make selections like this and just delete chunks of stuff out of there. Whoop, we don't want to delete our original piece of the mask, which is that outer path. I'll just quickly deselect that. And you can just go through and clean up the mask as you see fit, just something like that. I'm going to go back to my badge, and you can see we have created from scratch, nothing more than a little circle in the middle, this whole badge here in Adobe Illustrator. All right, well, that's it for this one, folks. I do hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, you got to check out this other video on type on a path here in Illustrator. It's a basic thing, but it's an important thing, and it's really cool, and there's so much to it, and you can check it out by using that link that's appearing in the screen right here, right now, and you can see it uses the badge that we just created in this video, so that's pretty cool. That's it for this one. Thanks for watching this video, and sticking around all the way to the end. Get it, got it, good. Nathaniel Dodson, tutvid.com. I'll catch you in the next one.